Thank you, Chin. It really and truly is an honor to be here with you tonight. This is my alma mater. I graduated from high school when I was 7. And then when Chin had to start talking about 40. I said, Chin, do you have to really go there with the 40 years ago? I graduated, I went to a small parish here in Omaha, St. Albert's in South Omaha. Doesn't have a school anymore, but the church is still there on 31st and Wright Streets. And from a very early age, my faith was the most important thing in my life, and always has been and always will be. My parents, I was thinking about this today. When I go to bed at night, I say the same prayers that my dad taught me when I was 2 years old. And that means a lot to me. So, went to prep here. This is my alma mater. Now I'm on the board of directors, which is a very, very cool thing. Graduated from here, went to Kearney State College in Kearney, Nebraska, played baseball out there, had a little baseball scholarship, and really didn't know what I was going to do in my life after I had a business degree and a Spanish degree. When I had an undergraduate. And there were no lawyers in my family. I didn't know any lawyers, but I had some people that mentored me and said, you ought to think about taking the LSAT. I went ahead and took it and was accepted at Creighton, went to Creighton Law School, graduated from there and got a job in the county attorney's office for a great mentor to me, Pinky Knowles. Donald L. Knowles was the county attorney at that time. And worked for him for several years, went into private practice for a while. And then in 1991, Jim Jansen was elected county attorney. He asked me to come back and be the chief deputy of the county attorney's office here in Douglas County. I did. Tried a lot of high-profile cases during that time period. And then in 2003, the Attorney General of the state of Nebraska asked me to come down to Lincoln and head the Criminal Bureau for the state of Nebraska, and I did that. But I love Omaha. I love Douglas County. And I decided to run for this office, and it was something I aspired to do from the time I was taught by Mr. Knowles when I first got out of law school. And this was kind of a dream come true to me. So I ran for this office in 2006 and was elected by the people of Douglas County in 2007. And I'm in my 3rd term, and I'll be up for re-election again next year. And I'll tell you a secret, I'm going to announce in the near future that I'm going to run another term. So, so it's something that I truly enjoy. I get to do a lot of neat things with this job. I'm on the board of directors here at PrEP. I'm on the board of directors with the Nebraska Organ Retrieval. I'm on the national board of directors for the National District Attorneys Association. I'm on the board for Project Harmony, which is our child advocacy center, which is one of the top child advocacy centers in the country. There are people who come here from internationally to take a look at Project Harmony. It's a tremendous asset and such a tremendous outpouring by so many people in the community to keep that going the way that it is. If you ever have a chance, it's on 120th and Q Streets there. It's a campus now. We bought all the buildings in that area there. It's really an unbelievable place. And it's a tremendous thing to have there to help kids get through the serious stuff that some kids have to deal with. I teach at Creighton University. I teach a fall prosecution class, and I teach a spring trial practice class. I teach prosecutors. I teach police officers also. I enjoy that part of the job. I also coach kids. I'm a member of St. Gerald's Parish. I've been for years. I've coached the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade girls and boys basketball teams over the years. Don't have any professionals that have come out of that yet. But I love, people go, why do you do that stuff? You got enough stuff to do. But you know what? I tell them it's important for me, the balance of my life, with the difficult things that I see every day and that I deal with, my faith, my family, and being around a bunch of young, energetic, optimistic students or kids is a great thing to give me balance in my life. And that's a very important thing. And I worry about that even with the rest of the people in my office. So that's a little bit about me. The office, I know I don't have a whole lot of time tonight. I could spend a lot of time talking to you. I'd love to visit. I do a 3-hour presentation about the Garcia case. I've done a 3-hour presentation about Nico Jenkins that I've done several times. And those are fascinating cases. A lot of people like to hear about those kinds of things, or some of the high-profile cases I've tried over the years, whether it's a murder case or a serial rapist or child cases. It's a fascinating job in many respects, a very sad job in many respects, and very emotional job. But the office, we have 60 lawyers, 60 lawyers in the Douglas County Attorney's Office now. We have a civil division that handles all the cases involving the county. We have a juvenile division. I have 16 lawyers there that I think it's important to put a lot of resources in juvenile court so that we can help kids turn their lives around if they're in problems, that they handle all the delinquencies, abuse and neglect cases, termination of parental rights. And everybody else in the criminal division, we do all the serious cases. By serious, I mean felony cases that occur in Douglas County: murders, sexual assaults, serious assaults, robberies, those kinds of cases. We file about 3,600 felonies a year in Douglas County. I think we have 35 to 40 murder cases pending right now here in Douglas County. So it's a very busy place. And we could talk a lot about those different aspects of the office. But two of the other parts of the office we have are, in Nebraska, the Douglas County Attorney, or the county attorney in any county, is the coroner. The elected county attorney is the coroner. So I have a deputy that's why you hear the term acting county coroner when they talk about the coroner. We have to make the legal decision, medical legal decision, about whether there should be an autopsy performed. So we have 5 forensic pathologists that work for us and do those autopsies. But we make the decision as to, and any time there's a death in Douglas County that's trauma-induced or a potential homicide or something that the police don't know cause of death, or if there's a possibility it's a contagion that might be threatening the health of anybody in the county, then we'll order an autopsy, and we have those doctors do the autopsies for us. So that's another part of the job, on call 24 hours in that respect. We also do the Board of Mental Health, which I think a lot of people don't realize, that if a family has someone that has a mental illness and they're dangerous to themselves or someone else, and we get calls all the time. I have a deputy that I just assigned to that process. We try and help. If the person won't get help for themselves, which is the first answer, then we have a way to do an involuntary commitment, least restrictive, until a doctor says that they're okay or not a danger to themselves anymore. But that's a big part of the job, to help people out, help families out with regard to mental health. And we could spend a whole lot of time talking about mental health resources and the need for mental health resources in our community. But we won't go there tonight. And the topic for me tonight is about the intersection of my faith and this job. And when we talked about what to talk about here, we came up with a topic of balancing, the justice with God's mercy. And I think one of the most important things to recognize here is they're not exclusive, okay? Justice has a lot to do with mercy, and God's mercy particularly. And we have to make very difficult decisions every day about cases, and they're very impactful decisions. They impact. They're so serious. We have the ability, the power to put people in prison, okay, to take away their freedom. And we have people come to us. I meet, unfortunately, probably on a weekly basis with families of victims who have lost a loved one because of a murder, and they want justice. And there are people who are victims of crime, and they seek justice. And so we have some emotional meetings with regards to that and what people expect from a criminal justice system. And so I have those conversations. I also have conversations with witnesses who are afraid to come in and testify, who feel threatened by a system that maybe they don't understand, or they have legitimate concerns about people who would perpetrate a crime on them. So it's a very emotional time period. And I hope you realize, and I'm thankful to the Father for having him tell people to say a prayer for me, because I pray all the time. And by pray, I talk to God. or I ask God. I hope he's listening, which I'm sure he is. And I pray for the wisdom to make the right decisions. I pray for the strength to do the things that are right in the decisions that we have to make. And I pray for my own emotional and balance and well-being in my life with some of the stuff that we handle. And the people that work in my office, they have a very difficult job. People ask me, well, what's the hardest part about your job or those kinds of cases that you've handled? I've handled many, many child murder cases. And, you know, Amber Harris, Naomi Lilly, a little 9-year-old who was raped and positionally asphyxiated by an individual. Amber Harris, like I said, Jessica O'Grady, you know, little Tommy Hunter recently on the Garcia case. You do those kinds of cases, and those kinds of cases, those images that you see going to that scene or looking at the photos, they never leave you. They're sort of etched in your soul. I really believe that they have such an impact on you, what you see and what you deal with. So when you meet with the families who are seeking justice and need to understand what the system is, you know, they probably really aren't thinking of mercy or compassion in any way. And so we talk about some of those things in the job that we do. And when I talk to families that come into me who have lost a loved one, I try and explain to them about the justice system, what justice is from our perspective, and what to expect. And I tell them, when you walk out of the courthouse, when this case is over, and the defendant's been sentenced in some murder case, let's say it's a murder, you're not going to feel like everything's all square, okay? You're not going to feel that way. Don't think that you're going to feel that way. I said, if we could do justice, what could we do? We could bring back your loved one for you. That would be justice. But we can't do that. And don't equate the value, and sometimes this happens with people, don't equate the value of your loved one's life or the loss of their life with what happens to a defendant in a case. Don't do that to yourself. You know, because I don't care what sort of a sentence somebody gets, it's not gonna be satisfactory, it's not gonna be okay, it's not gonna make things equal. And then we talk maybe about, you know, in the long term, forgiveness and those kinds of things. But it's important, I think, to give people a practical or real view of justice from that standpoint and what our system can do as far as providing justice to a family who's lost a loved one. And then when we talk about mercy and compassion, I think that's a big part of what we do. A lot of people think, well, a prosecutor or the county attorney, his job is to put people away, put people in jail, okay? Get the bad guys. And sure, that's a part of the job. You know, we prosecute some pretty heavy-duty cases that are very nasty things that when I speak to a jury about some of these cases, I look in people's eyes and I wonder if they're thinking, I don't want to believe that another human being could do this to another human being, especially a child, because we don't want to believe that. So it's very, very sad. And those are very, how many people here have been on a jury? Anybody in here? You know, it's a great service that people do. It's one of the most important things you'll do as a citizen of this great country that we live in. And it's a fascinating process. And I would thank anybody that has been through a part of the service or all the service. But the mercy part of it, you know, when I say that prosecutors aren't just people put people in jail, the county attorney's job is to do what? I'm going to do everything I can to make Douglas County the best place that we can possibly make it for us to raise families and have children and have good people. And besides the fact of handling prosecution of some of these cases, I think it's very important that we show compassion and we show mercy. And how do we do that? Because we try and fix people. We try and help people. That's part of the job of a county attorney. You know, I started in 1996 with the help of others, a drug court here in Douglas County. And it's a tremendous, tremendous thing for Douglas County. It's kind of a model for the Midwest. We have 150 people that are in drug court. And we want to keep people out of the system. Okay, and so if somebody's got an addiction problem, is it going to help to send them to the penitentiary for a year or 18 months or whatever? Probably not. But in a drug court situation, which is difficult for them to do, it's going to help them maybe overcome that addiction. I had a guy come up to me about 2 months ago. I was walking in the courthouse, first floor. He comes up to me, he says, "Mr. Kleine, you don't remember me, but you let me in drug court 2 years ago. I got a job. I got 2 kids. I still have an addiction problem, and I fight it every day, but I'm doing great, and thank you." And so to me, that's a big part of what we do, is trying to make people better. We have a diversion program where we, again, try and still do justice by making people whole, the victim whole, but allowing people not to get a felony conviction. We have a young adult court, which we use. We have mental health diversion. We have also a veterans court that I just started with the help of John McAllister and some other people in the legislature to help people that have served our country, giving them a break sometimes. Again, not letting them get away with anything, but giving them an opportunity maybe not to have a felony conviction. So there's compassion, there's mercy, all right? And if you look at, to me, our faith is very simple. All we have to look at is the Word. Jesus Christ came down and gave us an example of how to live our lives. And in the words he told us, whether it's the Beatitudes, you know, blessed are those who seek justice, they'll receive their fill. The next beatitude after that is, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. So his example and everything we do is the way we need to live our lives. And I only hope that I can just try to do the things that he has taught us to do in the manner that he's taught us to do them. And you know, it's kind of like the old song. When I was at Kearney State, I was president of the Newman Club, which is the Catholic organization. And I remember one of the songs that we sang at Mass was, "They'll know we are Christians by our love." And it's true. People should know that what we do by our faith, just by the way we are, the way we treat other people, the way we are when we come into contact with others, the way we respect other people, the way we respect life, okay? And my mantra with regard to the law and justice too is also that the law at the utmost should protect those that are most vulnerable. The people that can't protect themselves, children, the elderly, people who are developmentally disabled, the unborn. That's the utmost of what we should do in a civilized society as far as what the law should protect. And so that's the example I think that we need to set as Catholics in practicing our faith, in setting an example for everybody else around so that people wouldn't have to ask. They see us, they see how we interact with people, they see how we are, and they know. They know who we are. And we set that example. To me, that's how we mentor people. That's how we set that example. That's why people will follow. That's the kind of leader I like to be. People ask me, why do you try cases still? You know, you've been out of law school 40 years. You don't need to try cases anymore. To me, it's so important in an office full of lawyers, trial lawyers, that their leader that they see is still on there working, doing the same thing that they do, and setting an example for them in trying those cases. So that's important to me, and that's an important, I think, part of leadership, is setting an example. Sometimes it's easy to say how to do things, but it's doing as I do things is important. And I think it's so important in an office like this that we do things in the most ethical, proper way, and very transparent. Everything that we do is transparent. There's so many things I want to talk about, but you know, Tom Riley is the public defender here in Douglas County. He and I are best friends. We are. I talk to Tom all the time, talk to him about his family. We've tried cases against each other for 20-some years, more longer than that. And we go at it in the courtroom. We do our best job we can for our clients. And I respect him to the utmost. He does a tremendous job. And that's how it should be. That's the profession that we're in. It should be something that we have ultimately respect for each other. We do our job to the best of our ability. We don't pull any punches, but we don't cheat either. And I think that respect is mutual. I think that's very important as to how the system works. Let me see, I'll pass over. I always make notes and then I don't look at them, so you know, it's just like giving a closing argument. I kind of know what I want to say. Let's see here. You know, again, the example. Well, you know, when you talk about justice, I mean, like I said, the Bible tells us what justice is. I mean, look at the Ten Commandments. Really, are the foundation for most of our criminal law. When you think about it, you know, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. You know, the commandments that we have. But when Jesus Christ was asked, "What's the greatest commandment of all?" What did he say? He said, "Love God with your whole heart, your whole soul, your whole mind, and what else? Love your neighbor as yourself." He told us. He said, this is the greatest commandment. This is what you need to do. So we have all these things. You know, if we just look at the Bible, we get a lot of answers. Simple, right? Simple, but not easy at times. Not easy. You know, we can aspire to all those things, but sometimes it's difficult for us. Just like the rich man that asked Jesus, how do I get to the kingdom of heaven? And he told him, what? Take everything you have and give it away and come follow me. Wow. Okay? Pretty tough stuff. Pretty hard to decide to do that. But certainly we have all kinds of examples in Christ's words to us of how to live our lives. And that's what we need to aspire to. That's what I'd like to think about. So I've talked about some of the things that we do with regard to inside the office. Yeah, and you know, a lot of times I think too, I hear people say, gee, some of the stuff that you see or that happens, you know, can people really do these kinds of things? I think we do have to recognize to some extent that there is evil in the world. We don't like to think that way at times, but even Christ showed us that. You know, when he was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, what happened? Who came to him? The devil. Christ tells us the devil came to him and tempted him and told him, I can give you everything you want. And of course he rejected that. But it tells me something that Christ tells us. There is a presence out there that's not good. And we have to be aware of that, and we have to be righteous. So I meant to tell you too, if you had questions, I'd like to take. I'd rather have a little bit of a dialogue with some of you and answer some questions than me just up here talking the whole time. There's a couple other sites to some things from the Bible, but when I think about the topic itself, it's very easy to explain that yes, God's mercy is a big part of what we do from a justice standpoint. Okay. We are firm believers in our faith, thankfully, right, that God will give us a second chance. We are human beings that make mistakes. We have our transgressions, and we know that God loves us, and if we ask forgiveness, God will give us forgiveness. And that's really unbelievable. And so I think that we also have to transfer that as to what we can when we talk about justice. Yes, there's evil. Yes, that we have to be careful. Yes, we have to protect society. We have to protect people from bad things, but we also have to give people a second chance. So it really is a balance. That's a delicate balance at times as to how do we do that? How do we do that how do we give justice and still give people an opportunity, a second chance. And I think that's important, and that's, like I said, why we do some of the things that we do in our office. But let me ask you, does anybody here have any questions about anything? Yes. And you know what, I'm going to walk up around because that way people can hear the question you're going to ask.
Thank you for coming. When you mentioned your friendship with Mr. Riley, despite being on opposite sides a lot of time of the courtroom, that just really struck me, given how fractured politically we are and we're often talking past each other. Could you spin that out a little more, maybe how you think we can maybe not try to make connections rather than keep biting at each other when we're, have tough questions?
All right, and I think to me it's about respect. It's about doing a job the right way. The only way our system of justice works is if everybody who has a role in that system, the way that they do, does their job properly. I want the other person, people might not believe this, but I want the defendant in a case to have the best lawyer that they can have. Quite frankly, it makes my job easier. If they don't, it makes things a mess. And I think, what Tom would say, he wants somebody on the other side of the case that's going to be ethical, who's going to provide the discovery that he's entitled to, and just as fair and fair-minded. And so there's a mutual respect there because we both have a reputation with each other that I want to make sure that I comply with what I'm supposed to do, and I know Tom does too. And the other thing is, I like him. I like the way he is. He's a fighter, and that's what we're supposed to do. He represents his clients very well, and so there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think we should be able to go in the courtroom and battle it out, and walk out and put my arm on his shoulder. Maybe not right that minute after we get done with closing arguments, but at some point in time, and say, "Hey, Tom, you did a nice job," And I think he would say the same. So it's unfortunate. And I think people take things way too personal in a work setting too. I think sometimes it's, hey, he's doing his job, I'm doing my job, the judge needs to do their job, the jury needs to do their job effectively, and the system will work. If any part of that people don't do their job right, then I think the system doesn't work. So it's just a mutual respect thing, and it's important. I tell my new lawyers or even law clerks that they're building their reputation the minute they walk into this courthouse the first time. And they're getting to meet lawyers, they're getting to meet judges, they're getting to meet people on the other side, whatever kind of cases they're handling. So your reputation is so important to you and how you handle yourself and the work that you do and the ethics that you are involved with. Other questions? Yes? Oh, do you? Okay, great.
How do you handle when the system you work for, the institution you work for, parts of it conflict with our Catholic faith? For example, in Nebraska, the death penalty is still legal, and that's something that your office can seek when prosecuting someone. So how do you handle that on a personal and a professional level?
That's a great question, and I appreciate that question. I expected it. I really did. Well, it's because it's something I think about all the time. I have been down in front of the legislature testifying in favor of the death penalty in certain very unique cases, okay? And I've studied it. I've looked at teachings of Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine, who are supportive of, they're saints, and they were supportive of the death penalty. And I listened to what Pope Francis has said, and so I've talked to priests about it. And so I know I'm biased to some extent. I've seen some horrific cases that I can't imagine somebody could possibly do. I just had a case recently, Nico Jenkins, and he was sentenced to the death penalty. Whether that'll ever happen, I doubt it ever will. It would make my job tremendously easier not to have a death penalty. You don't understand how much work that makes us have to go through. I get upset about it. I told this to the legislature. I said, why do you have this? The last time I was down there testifying. You're asking jurors, you're asking me, you're asking judges to go through this. I know it's the law, But, you know, it would be much simpler if we didn't have it. The people have voted, though, and they said we need to have a death penalty in Nebraska. So it's the law. But it's difficult for me. I pray about that also. In fact, when I'm in a courtroom and a jury's got to, you know, it's one of the hardest things that you do as a lawyer. You argue your case, you're in there, and you get done, and you walk out of the courtroom and you go, gosh, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have remembered to do this, or I forgot to do this. And then you sit and you wait. And it's these 12 people who are looking at the case and all the evidence and making a decision. So, you know, that's the process that takes place. And what I'm getting at there is that, you know, we put so much on people, and these are, like I said, this is such a heavy duty thing. But it's a decision that people have to make. And in Nebraska, it's a very layered process. The jury has to find aggravating circumstances before they can even go to the death penalty. There's mitigating circumstances, and then a 3-judge panel weighs it and makes the decision. I don't make the decision. The judges do. And that's not to put it off on anybody else. It's just the way the law works. But yes, it's a difficult thing. But when I have a jury out, what I was getting to is I pray then also. And you know what? I don't pray that I'm going to win the case. I've decided that wouldn't be the right thing to do. I pray that the right thing happens and that I can accept that, no matter what that is. And so that's what our justice system is about, is trying to make sure that the right thing happens, no matter what that could possibly be. But the death penalty question is a tough question. And like I said, I know I'm a little biased. I say in certain very unique cases that society needs to be protected by somebody. That's what St. Augustine and some other folks, if you look at historically, have said. And it's not an easy thing to try and sort through. But my job would certainly be a lot easier if we didn't even have it. Other questions?